Hey everybody. So last time we started working on the validation of the fog density, and I came to the conclusion that this sort of set of code that checks to see if a validation token is if one of the validation tokens failed, needs to sort of go into its own function. So and then I was kind of thinking more afterwards, and uh, let me update this. I remember this when I was watching the video yesterday. Nothing. I guess if we're going to put a period, we should put a capital. Okay. Um, so this code needs to go, and then it probably needs to return a validation type. And then if it's none, then we do nothing. Um, but if it is something, then um, we will check to see if the previous one is, but we need to know what that token is. So then that changes this from checking to see, just checking for true false. False, we need to save that value. So let's just go ahead and get started on that. So we're gonna, and this is a generic function, so anything, this can take anything. So it's gonna be uh, validate value by token, and what it for tokens. So we are validating one value for multiple tokens, and it's going to accept a array of tokens of validation types, validation tokens, which are of type validation token types, and it's an array, and it's going to return a validation token types value, and I believe uh, uh, let's see, const let filled token. See, we need this so that we can get the message, the error message from the service, which is a validation token types, and by default it is none, and we are going to return that. And then what we're going to do, and I think we need to do this as a regular old-fashioned for loop so that we can break out of it if there is a failure, because we're only going to fail on the first one. And I guess we should put a note about it. Returns sets return value based on first failed token. So that's good. And so now we're going to return that. We're going to be like this. We're going to say it like this. We're going to say for, we're just going to do old-fashioned let I equals 0. Now I'm going to tell you, man. So originally it would be kind of like this: I equals 0, or var I equals 0. And there is some different behavior based on that. And that is asked all the time in interviews. And I always have to brush up because I never use that. See, that's the problem with like interviews, and like sometimes when you get, like if you're trying to get a certification, a lot of times they're saying, hey, what happens if you do this versus that? And this or that is something you never ever do, so you have no idea. Like you already have a good habit. It's like, what happens if you punch yourself in the nose? You know, it's like, well, I never punch myself in the nose, so I don't know, what happens. Um, let's see. So while I is less than validation tokens dot length, and then I plus plus. So this is the old school way, and I cannot tell you how many junior developers have never done this, and They love it. They're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. That fills in so many gaps for me. I didn't realize that this is your base level for loop in JavaScript. So, but the thing that you can do is then I believe you can say break. Right? What is ChatGPT? It's been a little while since I've used that. So, or as last generation's kids used to say, it's been a minute. I think all the people that used to say that are in their early 20 or late 20s, early 30s now. So they're no longer the youngs. But I heard that that's what the youngs call themselves today. So I'm trying to stay up with the latest lingo. Oh, what does the break keyword do in for loops? And because it's narrow, you have to hit. Okay, so we're going to say basically okay. So we're kind of doing something like this. So let's just go ahead and grab that. And see, so when we did that for loop above, we had a validation token because we did a for and did like an automatic assignment. But this time we're going to have to do our own assignment. So this, like, if you don't ever do regular for loops, this is probably going to be interesting to you as well. Is equal to validation tokens. Okay, so validation token is equal to validation tokens I. Right, so the I starts at 0. So this, as we move through, we're assigning this. So that automatically happens to you. That automatically happens in this situation. This assignment happens basically behind the scenes. It's doing something along the lines of this to make that happen. And so now that we have our validation token for this iteration, we can get our validation function. Now we can check our validation function just like we do up here. So we're going to say if it's not equal to null, because I forgot, we can get a null. If validation function is not equal to null, then we want to get the result. And so we also need to get a current value. And over there, we're just going to call it a value, and we're going to assume that it's a string at this point. That may not hold up, but I think it will. And we're going to call this value. So we make it much more generic, because it is much more generic. And then we're going to say failed token type is equal to validation token. So basically we're saying the current validation token that we have, that's going to be the one that's failed. So let's go ahead and close this down. That's not bringing any value to our lives. All right, so basically now we've reassigned it, and now we're going to break out of the loop. So we aren't even going to check the next ones, because why would you? Otherwise, we're going to end up just going to the next one, and that's what happens. That's the way it works. And then if we found any, and then we're just going to return the failed type. So if it gets assigned here, it'll be something different than none. Where are we at on time? We're at 9:40. That's a good time. So in the next video, we will refactor to use our new validation function. So anyways, everybody, happy coding. Bye.